Most people think traveling on a budget means cutting corners, sleeping somewhere questionable, and eating gas station food. But that is not what this is. These are 9 insanely cheap states to travel in 2026, where $50 a day actually gets you somewhere. State 9, West Virginia. There is a running joke that West Virginia is one of the most overlooked states in the country, and that joke is entirely on the people who keep overlooking it. West Virginia has the lowest cost of living index of any state in the United States, sitting at 84.1 according to Merrick data, which means food, lodging, and daily expenses run dramatically below the national average. Campgrounds near New River Gorge charge $25 to $50 a night. Historic bed and breakfasts in the area run $75 to $120, even during peak fall foliage season. That is not a deal. That is genuinely what things cost here. New River Gorge became a national park in December 2020, one of the newest in the system, and one of the few that charges no admission fee. The park covers more than 70,000 acres of rugged canyon country. The New River Gorge Bridge spans the gorge at 267 meters above the floor, one of the longest steel arch bridges on Earth. Every October, Bridge Day closes the bridge to traffic, base jumpers leap off the side, and hundreds of thousands of people come to watch. Admission, still free. Harper's Ferry, in the state's eastern panhandle, is where the Potomac and Shenandoah rivers meet at the borders of West Virginia, Maryland, and Virginia, 3 states visible from a single overlook. Thomas Jefferson visited in 1783 and wrote that the view was one of the most stupendous scenes in nature. John Brown's Fort is here, the site of the abolitionists' 1859 raid on the Federal Armory, an event that accelerated the tensions leading directly to the Civil War. The park's 32 kilometers of trails and Lower Town's cobblestone streets cost nothing to walk. Blackwater Falls State Park produces amber-colored waterfalls from the tannic acids of fallen spruce needles, a color that looks invented. The Seneca Rocks Formation rises nearly 900 feet from the valley floor. The Monongahela National Forest covers nearly 1 million acres. The state is the 3rd most forested in the country, and a disproportionate amount of what it offers costs nothing. $50 a day is not just possible here, it is the standard. State 8, Mississippi. Mississippi is the state people drive through on the way to somewhere else. That is a mistake they keep making, and it keeps being their loss. Mississippi consistently ranks as one of the 2 or 3 cheapest states in the country by cost of living. Budget hotels and inns run $70 to $100 a night. Southern comfort food, the real version, not the tourist version, can be had for a few dollars at local diners and lunch counters that have been in business for decades. The music is free, that part matters. Mississippi is where the blues was born. This is not a metaphor or a marketing tagline. It is a documented historical fact. The Delta blues emerged from the flatlands of the Mississippi Delta in the early 20th century, in towns like Clarksdale, Dockery Farms, and the crossroads of Highways 61 and 49. Robert Johnson, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, and B.B. King all came from this region. The Mississippi Blues Trail, a network of historical markers placed across the state, documents more than 200 sites connected to the history of the blues and its spread northward to Chicago and beyond. Walking the trail is free. The markers are on public roads and public land. Clarksdale's Ground Zero Blues Club, co-owned in part by actor Morgan Freeman, who has lived in the area for years, is one of the most authentic live blues venues still operating in the country, and cover charges are modest or non-existent on many nights. The Natchez Trace Parkway is a 444-mile national scenic byway running from Natchez, Mississippi, north through Alabama and into Nashville, Tennessee. It follows the path of the Old Trace, a route used for centuries by the Choctaw, Chickasaw, and later by American settlers and soldiers. There are no commercial vehicles, no billboards, and no traffic lights on the parkway. It is federally maintained and free to drive. Camping at Jeff Busby Campground along the route costs nothing. The parkway passes through some of the most serene woodland scenery in the south, and in fall, it is genuinely extraordinary. On the Gulf Coast, Biloxi, Gulfport, Ocean Springs, and Pass Christian offer white sand beaches with public access at no charge. Ocean Springs, founded in 1699 by French explorer Pierre Le Moyne d'Iberville, is one of the oldest settlements on the Gulf Coast and has developed into a small arts community with murals, galleries, and the Walter Anderson Museum of Art, which documents the life and obsessive visionary work of one of the most unusual American artists of the 20th century. Admission is modest. The town itself is free. The Mississippi Civil Rights Museum in Jackson opened in 2017 and documents the movement in the state, the sit-ins, the Freedom Riders, the murders of Medgar Evers and Emmett Till, the organizing work that changed the country. Admission is modest. It is a serious museum. State 7, Arkansas. If you have never thought about Arkansas as a travel destination, that is understandable, and also the reason it keeps ranking among the best budget travel options in the country. Nobody has gotten there yet. The prices know it. Arkansas carries a cost of living roughly 14% below the national average. Housing, food, and transportation are all cheaper than most of the country, and the state has built a tourism infrastructure around the fact that most of its best attractions cost nothing. Hot Springs National Park is one of the strangest and most fascinating national parks in the system. For one thing, it is entirely inside a city. The park and the downtown area of Hot Springs, Arkansas are genuinely intertwined to the point where it can be hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. The park has no admission fee. It was established as a federal reservation in 1832, making it the oldest protected federal land in the United States, predating Yellowstone by 40 years. The thermal springs themselves, which produce water at around 143 degrees Fahrenheit from deep beneath the Ouachita Mountains, have been drawing visitors for thousands of years. The landmark Bathhouse Row along Central Avenue contains 8 grand bathhouses built between 1892 and 1923. Most no longer operate as bathhouses, but the Buckstaff Bathhouse and Quapaw Baths still offer soaks in the thermal waters. Grand Promenade, a brick pathway running the length of the park behind Bathhouse Row, is free and offers a view of the whole scene. The springs themselves can be seen at the Hot Water Cascade, which flows openly over the rocks along the avenue. The Hot Springs area was also, improbably, a major player in early 20th century American organized crime. Al Capone had a suite at the Arlington Resort Hotel and regularly used the city as a winter retreat. The city ran wide-open gambling operations for decades, horse racing at Oaklawn Park and casino gambling in downtown clubs, operating under protection from city government and local law enforcement. All of this is documented at the local History Museum. Bill Clinton, who grew up in Hot Springs, has spoken about what an unusual place it was to come of age in. The Ozark Mountains in northern Arkansas offer some of the best and least expensive outdoor recreation in the South. The Buffalo National River, the first national river designated in the United States, runs 135 miles through limestone bluffs and hardwood forests, one of the last undammed rivers in the lower 48 states. Floating it in a canoe or kayak is a full day at minimal cost. Crater of Diamond State Park, near Murfreesboro, is the only diamond mine in North America open to the public. Visitors pay a modest state park entrance fee and can dig for actual diamonds. Any diamonds they find, they keep. Since the park opened, visitors have found more than 35,000 diamonds. Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art in Bentonville opened in 2011 and offers free admission, housing one of the most significant collections of American art in the country, housed in a building designed by architect Moshe Safdie and funded by the Walton family. It is the kind of museum you would not expect to find here, which is part of why it is worth knowing about. State 6, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is the state that surprises people. That tends to happen when a place has been underestimated for long enough. Eventually, the honest assessment catches up. Oklahoma City and Tulsa are both legitimate cities with things to do, places to eat, and scenes to explore, and neither of them charges the prices of comparable cities on the coasts. Oklahoma has a cost of living index of around 85.7, well below the national average. A decent hotel in Tulsa or OKC can run $60 to $80 a night. A meal at a local restaurant, real barbecue, chicken fried steak, catfish, is often under $15. The outdoor attractions are either free or close to it. Tulsa has reinvented itself in unexpected ways. The Gathering Place, a 66-acre park on the banks of the Arkansas River, opened in 2018 and is entirely free to enter. It was funded by a $465 million donation from the Williams Company's George Kaiser Family Foundation, making it one of the most generously funded public parks in the country. It has playgrounds, a boathouse, trails, and a sky-level rope bridge, and it receives over 2 million visitors a year. The Philbrook Museum of Art, housed in a 1927 Italian Renaissance-style villa originally built for oil magnate Wade Phillips, sits on 25 acres of formal gardens in Tulsa's Midtown. It has a permanent collection of over 16,000 works. The Woody Guthrie Center, also in Tulsa, documents the life and legacy of one of the most important figures in American folk music. Guthrie was born in Okemah, Oklahoma. Tulsa has another layer worth knowing about. The Greenwood District, once known as Black Wall Street, was one of the wealthiest black communities in the United States in the early 20th century, with hundreds of businesses, 2 newspapers, a hospital, law offices, and a hotel. In late May and early June 1921, it was destroyed in what is known as the Tulsa Race Massacre, one of the most devastating acts of racial violence in American history. An estimated 300 people were killed, and 35 square blocks were burned. Greenwood Rising, a history center dedicated to telling that story, opened in 2021. It is one of the most significant historical sites in the state. Oklahoma City has a comparable weight to carry in history. The Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum stands where the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building was bombed on April 19, 1995, a domestic terrorist attack that killed 168 people, including 19 children in a daycare center. The outdoor memorial, including the 168 empty chairs arranged in rows, is free and open 24 hours a day. The museum is ticketed at a modest price. It is one of the most thoughtful and sobering memorial museums in the country. The Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge southwest of Lawton is a 59,000-acre federal refuge that shelters bison, elk, Texas longhorn cattle, and prairie dogs on a landscape that looks almost nothing like people's idea of Oklahoma. It is free to enter, the climbing and hiking are excellent, and the scenery is genuinely dramatic. State 5. Alabama. Alabama has 32 miles of Gulf Coast beach. Most people who have not been would be surprised by what those 32 miles actually look like. White sand, warm water, and prices that make neighboring Florida feel embarrassing by comparison. Alabama's overall cost of living sits about 12% below the national average, and that gap is especially visible along the Gulf Coast. Gulf Shores and Orange Beach offer public beach access at no charge. Gulf State Park, one of the largest state parks in Alabama at 6,500 acres, surrounds the beach with hiking and biking trails, a fishing pier, and a world-class nature center. The beach itself is genuinely beautiful. The same white quartz sand that gives Florida's panhandle its color extends westward into Alabama. As one regular visitor to the Gulf Coast put it, Gulf Shores gives you everything you'd pay twice as much for in Florida, and your neighbors are friendlier. The Birmingham Civil Rights National Monument and the 16th Street Baptist Church, where 4 young girls, Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, Carol Robertson, and Carol Denise McNair, were killed in a Ku Klux Klan bombing on September 15, 1963, are free to visit. The church was a central meeting point for civil rights organizing in Birmingham and remains an active congregation. The Birmingham Museum of Art is free. The Civil Rights Institute, adjacent to the 16th Street Baptist Church, has a modest admission fee and documents the movement in extraordinary depth. Montgomery, about 90 miles south of Birmingham, is where Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on December 1, 1955, triggering the Montgomery bus boycott, a 381-day protest that became one of the defining campaigns of the civil rights movement. The Rosa Parks Museum at Troy University sits on the site where she was arrested. The Dexter Avenue King Memorial Baptist Church, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. served as pastor during the boycott, is open for tours. The National Memorial for Peace and Justice, which opened in 2018 and was created by the Equal Justice Initiative, is one of the most significant memorials in the country. It documents lynching in America, county by county, with hanging steel monuments for each of the more than 800 counties where lynchings occurred. Admission is modest. Huntsville, in northern Alabama, has the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, the largest space museum in the world by floor space. Huntsville was the heart of American rocket development. Werner von Braun and the German rocket team who developed the Saturn V rocket were based here. The Saturn V rocket that took Apollo astronauts to the moon was built in Huntsville. The museum has an actual Saturn V on display. General admission runs around $30, which for what it contains is not expensive. Cheaha State Park in the Talladega National Forest sits at the summit of Cheaha Mountain, the highest point in Alabama at 2,407 feet. The views from the summit extend across the Appalachian foothills for miles. State 4, Missouri. Missouri is the state where the phrase, "you can do a lot without spending much," is not an optimistic slogan. It is a factual description of the infrastructure they have built. St. Louis, in particular, has more free major tourist attractions than any American city outside of Washington, D.C. That is a claim worth unpacking because the list is long. Forest Park, where the 1904 World's Fair was held, covers 1,293 acres, about 450 acres larger than Central Park in New York City. Inside that park, for free, are the St. Louis Zoo, regularly ranked among the best in the country, the St. Louis Art Museum, with a collection spanning 5,000 years, the Missouri History Museum, and the St. Louis Science Center, with over 700 exhibits. The park has waterways, trails, a golf course, and tennis courts. An entire day in Forest Park costs nothing. The Gateway Arch, designed by Finnish-American architect Eero Saarinen following a 1947 to 1948 national competition and completed in 1965, stands 630 feet tall and 630 feet wide from base to base, making it the tallest arch and tallest monument in the United States. It was built to commemorate St. Louis's role as the gateway to westward expansion. The park surrounding it, the museum beneath it, and the old courthouse, where the first two trials in the Dred Scott case took place in the 1850s, are all free. Taking the tram to the observation deck at the top costs around $17. The view from 630 feet, looking out over the Mississippi River and the city, is worth it. Kansas City, 4 hours west, does two things exceptionally well and cheaply: barbecue and jazz. Kansas City-style barbecue, slow-smoked with a dry rub and a thick, sweet sauce, is a distinct regional tradition, and the best versions are at lunch counters that have been at it for decades. The 18th and Vine Historic District is where Kansas City jazz was born. Charlie Parker, Count Basie, and Big Joe Turner all came from here. The American Jazz Museum and the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum share a building in the district, both ticketed modestly. The Missouri Ozarks offer float trips on rivers like the Current and the Jack's Fork, designated as National Scenic Riverways since 1964 and free to access. Canoe rentals from local outfitters are affordable. Mark Twain's boyhood home is in Hannibal on the Mississippi, a small town with a large literary shadow. Missouri runs around 88% of the national cost of living average, Hotel rooms in most of the state come in under $80, and the food is cheap, especially outside the metro areas. State 3. Tennessee. Tennessee has a geography problem, and the problem is that it is extraordinarily good. The eastern third of the state is Appalachian Mountains and national parks. The middle third is Nashville and rolling farmland. The western edge is Memphis and the Mississippi River. Getting all of that for $50 a day is not luck. It is geography meeting low cost of living. Great Smoky Mountains National Park is the most visited national park in the United States, drawing over 12 million visitors a year, more than the Grand Canyon, more than Yellowstone, more than anywhere. It also charges no entrance fee. None. It is the only major national park in the country where the absence of an admission fee is protected by federal law, the result of a deed restriction Tennessee placed on Newfound Gap Road when it transferred the land in 1951, later reinforced by federal statute in 1994, both of which prevent the National Park Service from charging tolls or entrance fees on the park's primary roads. The park covers over 500,000 acres across the border of Tennessee and North Carolina, contains over 800 miles of hiking trails, 70 species of mammals, over 200 species of birds, and more tree species than in all of Northern Europe. Black bears roam freely in the park. There are estimated to be around 1,500 of them. Elk, reintroduced to the park in 2001, can be seen regularly in the Cataloochee Valley. The park is extraordinary, and it costs nothing to enter. Memphis has Beale Street, which is the historic commercial and entertainment district, where W.C. Handy is credited with publishing the first blues music ever written, Memphis Blues, in 1912. The street is walkable. The music spills out of every door, and walking it at any hour is free. Sun Studio at 706 Union Avenue is where Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Roy Orbison all recorded in the 1950s. Tours run about $15. The National Civil Rights Museum, built around the Lorraine Motel, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4, 1968, is ticketed but modestly priced and considered one of the most important civil rights museums in the country. Nashville runs hotter on the budget scale than the rest of the state. It has been discovered with considerable enthusiasm, and prices have followed. But the honky-tonks on Lower Broadway charge no cover, and the live music is continuous from afternoon into the early morning 7 days a week. The Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum is ticketed, but everything along Lower Broadway is essentially free. The Parthenon, a full-scale replica of the original Parthenon in Athens, constructed in 1897 for Tennessee's Centennial Exposition and located in Centennial Park, charges a very modest admission fee and contains a 42-foot replica of the ivory and gold statue of Athena, the tallest indoor sculpture in the Western Hemisphere. Camping in Great Smoky Mountains runs from $17.50 to $30 per night at designated campgrounds. Budget motels in Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, the gateway towns on the Tennessee side of the park, can be found at under $70 a night off-peak. A day of hiking, wildlife watching, and driving Clingman's Dome Road, which at 6,643 feet is the highest point in the park and offers views across the entire southern Appalachian Range, costs nothing beyond whatever it takes to get there. State 2. Kansas. Kansas is the state most likely to surprise the people who have been ignoring it, and the number of people ignoring it is substantial, which is one of the reasons it belongs on this list. Kansas has a cost of living hovering around 86% of the national average. Most of the state is genuinely affordable in ways that larger travel markets are not. Wide open terrain, minimal traffic, and relatively few tourists competing for the same limited inventory of hotel rooms means prices stay reasonable in ways they cannot in more marketed destinations. The Flint Hills, running north to south through east-central Kansas, are one of the last remaining expanses of tallgrass prairie in North America. Before European settlement, tallgrass prairie once covered around 170 million acres of North America. Today, less than 4% remains intact, and the Flint Hills hold the largest contiguous piece of it. The Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve near Yawn City protects 10,894 acres of the original landscape. Entrance is free. In early spring, ranchers conduct controlled burns of the grassland, a practice used for centuries by indigenous people and still essential for maintaining the prairie ecosystem. And the sight of fire moving across the hills at night, miles of flame visible from the road, is unlike anything in the American landscape that most people have seen. There is no admission charge to drive through and watch. Wichita, the largest city in the state, has an old town entertainment district and a collection of museums that punch above their geographic weight. The Wichita Art Museum has permanent collections of American art, including a significant group of works by American illustrator and painter Charles Russell, and admission is free. The Sedgwick County Zoo is one of the top zoos in the Midwest. The Kansas Cosmosphere and Space Center in Hutchinson is considered by many aerospace professionals to be the finest space museum outside of the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum. It has the largest collection of Russian space artifacts outside of Russia. The actual Liberty Bell 7 spacecraft, piloted by astronaut Gus Grissom in 1961, and a full SR-71 Blackbird on display. General admission is modest. Dodge City, in southwestern Kansas, carries the full weight of its reputation. It was a real frontier town. The cattle drives from Texas ended here along the Chisholm Trail, and Wyatt Earp and Bat Masterson served as lawmen there during the 1870s and 1880s. The Boot Hill Museum documents what the actual town was, minus the mythology. The landscape outside Dodge City is flat, enormous, and in its own way spectacular. The kind of straight, unbroken horizon that does something to your perspective after a few hours of staring at it. Kansas runs about 86% of the national cost of living average. A decent motel in Wichita or Hays runs $60 to $80. The state is not fashionable, and that is exactly what keeps it affordable. State 1. Nebraska. Nebraska is not on most people's travel radar. That is the point. Nebraska is one of the 5 least visited states in the country. That means uncrowded national monuments, state parks with space, and accommodation prices that reflect actual supply and demand rather than the markup that comes with being famous. A budget motel in most Nebraska towns costs $55 to $80 a night. Camping is widely available at state parks for nominal fees. Chimney Rock, in the panhandle of western Nebraska, is a 325-foot geological formation that rises from the North Platte River Valley like something planted there deliberately. For the hundreds of thousands of emigrants who traveled the Oregon Trail, the California Trail, and the Mormon Trail west in the 1840s and 1850s, Chimney Rock was the landmark by which they measured progress. It meant they had made it through the Great Plains and the mountains were coming. It appears in more pioneer diaries and journals than any other single landmark along the western trails. The National Historic Site Visitor Center is modest. The view of the formation from the road is free. Scotts Bluff National Monument near Gering is another Oregon Trail landmark, a 800-foot bluff that early settlers navigated around by following Robidoux Pass. The summit road and trails are open with a modest park fee, and the views from the top span 35 miles in every direction on a clear day, including the North Platte River Valley that the emigrants crossed. The Sandhills of Nebraska, roughly 20,000 square miles of grass-stabilized sand dunes in the north-central part of the state, are one of the least disturbed grass ecosystems in the Western Hemisphere. They are also home to some of the most extraordinary bird migration events in North America. Each spring, between February and April, approximately 80% of the world's sandhill crane population, roughly 500,000 to 600,000 birds, stop to rest and feed along an 80-mile stretch of the Platte River near Kearney, Nebraska. The migration has been occurring on this stretch of river for an estimated 10 million years. Standing near the river at dawn as 500,000 cranes lift from the water into the morning light is an experience that travel writers reliably run out of words to describe. There are paid tours available through the Roe Sanctuary, but the cranes can be seen from public roads and highway bridges at no cost at all. Omaha, Nebraska's largest city, has the Henry Dorley Zoo and Aquarium, regularly ranked by independent evaluators as one of the best zoos in the world. It has the world's largest nocturnal exhibit, the world's largest glazed geodesic dome housing a simulated desert, and a walk-through aquarium tunnel under a shark tank. The zoo costs around $30 for adults, a price that is modest given what it contains. Omaha also has the Durham Museum, housed in the 1931 Art Deco Union Station building, which documents the history of the American Midwest and the city's role in westward expansion. Nebraska's combination of genuine natural spectacles, deep American historical layers, and the near-total absence of tourist pricing makes it the kind of destination that rewards the people willing to pay attention. 9 states, $50 a day. All of them overlooked. Most of them genuinely stunning, and none of them charging you the kind of prices you get when a destination knows it has been discovered. If you have been to any of these states and have a story about what it actually cost you, drop it in the comments. It is always more useful to hear from someone who has done it than from someone who read about it. And if there is a state you think belongs on this list and did not make it, make the argument. If you got something out of this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. It makes a real difference in who gets to see it next.